This is the Oxbot Lumo 18. It's a tiny little drone with an 85mm wheelbase and 45mm or 1.8-inch props, and it's got a sturdy yet flexible frame, a very cool LED light strip, built-in Bluetooth for wireless tuning, a built-in ELRS receiver, and a built-in buzzer. But what's most important, this drone has the DJI O4 system with the wide camera on a soft mount to prevent vibrations and jello in your footage. Now this is huge because the DJI O4 Wide camera is a massive improvement over the original DJI O4. And the DJI O4 Lite, as I call it, is very sensitive to vibrations, and without a good soft mount, the footage can't be stabilized and it just looks bad. The soft mount on the Lumo 18 works very well, and you can count on clean, stable shots like these. A tiny little drone with a DJI system in it like this can be a ton of fun to fly at public places like your local park because it's not very intimidating and it doesn't make a lot of noise. Here's what it sounds like. But how does the Lumo 18 actually fly? And how does it compare to the BetaFPV Pavo Pico II? Let's find out. This is a 2S quad, and Oxbot recommends 450 to 850 milliamp batteries. I do have a ton of 2S batteries that'll work with this quad, but I think 550 milliamp is really the sweet spot between flight time and performance. With these packs, I got between 5 to 6 minutes depending on how I was flying. And on these 450 milliamp packs, I got more like 4.5 minutes. Obviously, your flight times will really depend on how you fly. If you really rip it, you're gonna get less flight time. Without a battery, the Lumo 18 weighs in at 68.8 grams. And when I add my battery strap, it weighs in at 70.7 grams. With my 450 milliamp 2S pack, it weighs in at 98.5 grams. And with my 550 milliamp 2S pack, it weighs in at 99.9 grams, 100 grams on the nose. And with a 650 milliamp 2S pack, it weighs 101.6 grams. I did fly the drone with this 650 milliamp pack and it handled the weight just fine. I can't give you guys a realistic flight time because my packs are so old, they're really soft. But if you're wondering if this drone can handle heavier packs to get longer flight times, it absolutely can. All right, you guys, now I'm out here at my flying spot. I'm at a public park where there's lots of trees and gardens around. It's a great place to fly micros because there are a lot of people around, but with a small and lightweight drone like this, people don't really care about it. They just think it's another toy and they don't really pay attention. I think if I showed up with a larger, heavier drone, I'd get kicked out pretty fast. The packs that I think are the best fit for this drone are these BetaFPV Lava 550 milliamp 2S packs. They are high voltage packs and I do have them charged up to 4.35 volts per cell to give me a little extra flight time. They're a good combination between weight and power. So let's see how the drone does with these. I'm going to show you guys some raw goggles DVR so you can judge for yourself how the drone flies, and I'm going to show you some stabilized video from the DJI O4 Wide so you can see what kind of video quality you can expect from this drone. The first thing I noticed is that the DJI O4 Wide is so much better than the standard DJI O4 Lite. It's just a lot easier to see everything in your environment, especially things like tree branches when you're turning fast. The field of view is much closer to the other FPV systems I'm used to, and it really is a huge improvement. As far as gyro data and stabilization, I got some very good results with gyro flow, so that soft mount is really doing its job. Most of the DJI O4 Lite drones I've tested have had very mediocre video quality because it's so hard to get clean gyro data from the DJI O4 Lite camera. The Lumo 18 flies great for a ducted drone with 45mm props. The PID tune is very good, and I didn't get any shakes or vibrations in my footage. I was really wondering how that plastic frame was going to hold up, and it does look like it's stiff enough for such a small drone. So if you're put off by the plastic frame, it's really not an issue. Compared to other drones in this category like the Pavo Pico II, I actually prefer the way this Lumo 18 flies when I'm outdoors and in larger spaces. It is a little bit heavier with a slightly longer wheelbase, but that makes it feel less floaty like most lightweight micros do, and a little more dialed in. It's still a prop protected micro, it's hardly a freestyle beast, but I didn't have any issues with yaw washout like most Cinewhoops do, which I put down to those larger motors. Since the Lumo 18 is heavier, it's not the most efficient drone out there, and I did get shorter flights than I did on my Pavo Pico II with the same 550 milliamp batteries. Now, is that extra power and performance worth the sacrifice in flight times? That's up to you and your flying style, but I definitely think it's worth it when you're flying in a larger, outdoor space where that extra power is a real benefit, and you can go up in battery size if you want to. Here's what the Lumo 18 will look like when it comes to you. I got the version with the DJI O4 Wide pre-installed. Oxbot is a new company and they remind me a lot of SpeedyBee, and that's a good thing because SpeedyBee is known for innovations and high quality products that are really cheap. The drone feels great in my hands and the frame really feels like it'll take some crashes without breaking. We get this handy driver, which is exactly the same one that you get with SpeedyBee drones. We also get a dongle to plug the quad into USB. And we also get some spare screws, some tools, and some hardware for mounting the original O4 camera, and some stickers for your drone. I didn't put mine on because I think it would make the drone look like a toy, and I have a hard enough time as it is convincing my wife I'm not just out playing with kids' toys when I go out to fly my drones. The frame on this drone is made completely out of plastic. There is no carbon fiber, but it seems very strong. It has a two-piece design, and this upper part where the arms are is much thicker for strength and rigidity, and the ducts are a little bit thinner so they'll flex in a crash. The build quality seems very good. When you think of a plastic frame, it sounds cheap, but holding it in my hand, it feels solid and durable. On the sides, we have these 3D printed plates that kind of look like horns. They add a little bit of style, but most importantly, they do add a lot of protection for that DJI O4 Wide camera. The frame does have a battery cage built right into it, but I cut mine with side cutters because I really prefer to use the Velcro strap so I can use different sizes and shapes of 2S batteries. The LED strip on this drone is really cool. Let me plug it in to show you guys what it looks like. This LED strip has 66 individual LED lights, and this color scheme is very cool. By default, it's green when it's ready to fly, it's white when you arm, and it's red when the battery is low or when Betaflight throws a warning message. Here's a good example of that. The LED is blinking red right now because my battery's low. You can change how the light strip behaves in Betaflight, but I really like the way it's set up. It looks cool and it makes the drone very easy to see, and it's pretty intuitive that it turns red when there's a warning, like when you try to arm and your throttle isn't all the way down like this. The camera mount on this drone is very good. There's loads of protection and the camera is soft mounted. Notice that the entire DJI O4 is soft mounted, not just the camera. The O4 system is mounted on a bracket, which is then mounted on 4 rubber grommets. This is a great design because the camera mount is super soft, which is what the DJI O4 requires in order to get clean gyro data. But that DJI O4 system is completely protected inside of this canopy because the canopy itself isn't soft mounted, so it's super strong. On the Pavo Pico II, the entire canopy is soft mounted, and that creates a weak point because this canopy is only anchored to the frame with those soft rubber grommets, which could rip in a crash. Our motors are 1103, 12,000 kV, and they are connected with plugs to the board, so you can easily swap one out if it fails, and they do have a 3-hole mounting pattern. Notice the motors are mounted upside down, so this is a pusher configuration, which gives us a little better efficiency. Our props are the Gemfan 45mm 3-bladed props, which are the exact same ones that come on the Pavo Pico II. Unfortunately, we don't get any extra props in the box, so make sure to pick up some extra props. Our flight controller is an F4 2-3S 12-amp all-in-one board with built-in ELRS. There is a small ELRS antenna down here hanging off the board, and range is very good. It's not an issue with the sort of distance that you'll be able to fly with a drone this small. I only ran mine on 2S batteries because that's what the motors are designed for, but you could run 3S with a motor output limit. There is no USB port on the board itself. We do have a plug right there, which is where you plug in this dongle to connect to Betaflight. If you're considering the Lumo 18 or the Pavo Pico II, here's how they compare. They both run 2S batteries, they both have 45mm props, and they both have an all-in-one board with built-in ELRS that requires a USB dongle. The Pavo Pico II does have this carbon plate, which is stiffer and lighter than plastic, and it is more efficient for longer flight times, and it's also cheaper. Where the Lumo 18 weighs in at around 70 grams, the Pavo Pico II weighs in at about 54 grams. The Lumo 18 also has an 85mm wheelbase, where the Pavo Pico II is 80mm, so this is a slightly larger quad. The Lumo 18 has much larger 1103 motors, where the Pavo Pico II has those 1102s, so the Lumo 18 is more powerful and does better with larger batteries. The Lumo 18 also has this cool LED strip and wireless tuning, which the Pavo Pico II doesn't have. The canopy on the Lumo 18 is also stronger, and I think it has a better design. But the biggest difference between these two drones is that the Lumo 18 has the DJI O4 Wide, and as of the making of this video, the Pavo Pico doesn't. I'm sure BetaFPV is going to update all of their drones with the DJI O4 Wide soon, but as of the making of this video, the Pavo Pico II doesn't have the DJI O4 Wide. Alright you guys, now it's time for my conclusions on the Lumo 18. And overall, I'm very impressed by this little drone. It flies amazing, it doesn't make a ton of noise, and the build quality is very strong. It feels like it'll crash and serve you well for a while without breaking. The soft mounting system for the O4 Wide is very good, and I got some very decent footage from my DJI O4 Wide system, which is saying something because most DJI O4 Lite footage isn't very good in my opinion. Oxbot is a new company, but it seems like they're very focused on their users. They even have an app, a real manual, and a very good web page with all the parts and resources that you might need. So this could be a great drone to get you started with FPV. For example, how do you bind your ELRS receiver to your radio? How do you bind your DJI O4 system? These are all things that beginners usually have to ask, and it's nice that Oxbot has provided a manual with all that information for new pilots. If you're looking to get the best possible performance from a small drone like this with the DJI O4 Wide, I think this is a solid option. What do you guys think of the Lumo 18? Would you take this over the Pavo Pico II? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. All right, that'll do it for this one. See you guys in the next one.